recommend Meetup to a lot of my friends that are looking for different things. Wine tasting, movies, book club, meet a lot of new people, a lot of new friends, and it will make you more social.
What is a chess dynasty? Unceasing dominance, move after move, again and again and again.
We have a resignation, we have history.
He is the 5-time FIDE World Chess Champion.
But a chess dynasty can also be cruel. It forces most to defer their dreams until next time. If there is a next time.
It's losing.
Oh my God, did he just blow?
Yeah, he did.
I'm blown away. The game is over.
As the chess world turns to Kazakhstan, the Magnus Carlsen dynasty is set to close. The FIDE World Championship is finally up for grabs. For two chess superstars lying in wait, until next time is now. Jan Nepomniachtchi has methodically done what he needed to do to get another shot at the title. The pressure to seize the moment this time rests heavily upon him.
Jan is running out of resources. He's built every single threat that's possible, and Ding's just countered it.
There's no way to make progress now.
Ding Liren knows firsthand what the end of this dynasty means. An unexpected chance to make history. Can China's best turn his good fortune into eternal fame?
It's a draw. What an amazing defense by Ding. The 2023 world champion will be decided in speed chess.
The legacy of this championship spans across centuries. It reads from the names of chess giants. For the first time in a decade, a new name will raise the trophy and be etched into chess history. It's the 2023 FIDE World Championship. Whose name will next be called champion?
It's Championship Sunday in Astana. And not far from here are the buzzing halls of the St. Regis Hotel. Like every game day today, Jan Nepomniachtchi and Ding Liren will step into this playing arena. But this is like no other day. They'll walk into the glass room and today, with the stunning trophy in sight, play their hearts out. And in the end, one of them will be the new world chess champion. The press is ready. We are ready. Welcome to our coverage of the playoffs for the 2023 FIDE World Championship. I'm International Master Tanya Sachdev, and alongside me, the crew, Grandmaster Robert Hess and a Grandmaster Fabiano Caruana. It's going to be an intense day of chess. Robert, has this been the most unpredictable World Championship match?
It's been an absolute roller coaster, and perhaps that's what happens when there are two evenly matched players like Jan Nepomniachtchi and Ding Liren, the numbers 2 and 3 rated players in the world, just a few rating points apart, coming into this match with just about an equal head-to-head record. It's been exciting, it's been fun, it is Sunday Fun Day, but for the players, there's a lot on the line.
Sunday Fun Day, I love it. Fabi, with your experience of the 2018 tiebreaks in the World Championship match, how difficult is today for the players?
It's going to be incredibly difficult for both of them. And we can't pick out a clear favorite, I think. We see that the players have been completely evenly matched in classical chess, battling back and forth, but still reaching the 7-7 score. In rapid chess, I think they're also going to be completely evenly matched. Although it's possible that in just 4 games, one of them will break free, and perhaps it's even likely that we might see it end before we get to the blitz. But in blitz chess, who knows? It's going to be a bloodbath if it gets to that point, and at that point, anything can happen.
That's going to be crazy, but we've seen all kinds of crazy in this match. Vishy Anand, the 5-time world champion, an absolute legend, called it one of the most exciting matches in recent history. This match has been jaw-dropping from the start. We saw lots of decisive games, 5 decisive games in the first half, including a psychological meltdown in Game 7 by Ding. Game 8, Jan Nepomniachtchi, with his trickiness, survived a tough scare. And then, finally, Kaisa was on Ding's side in Game 12. From a difficult position, Ding leveled the match going into Game 14, which we saw yesterday. And with a draw, a marathon game, it is 7-7, heading to the playoffs. Game 14, Game 7 as well, was an iconic one, and the longest of the match. Fabi, Yan was dismissive about Ding's attack with knight g4, knight g5, h4 coming in, and his play lived up to it. Ding survived a scare yesterday.
Yeah, I think Jan had the absolutely correct initial reaction. His intuition told him that knight g5 and h4, scary though it may look, it's not really based in terms of some sound positional principle that White's played better in the opening and it's now time for an attack. Black was playing completely healthy moves. That's what Jan said, and that's why he didn't believe that aggression like that would necessarily result in some sort of advantage for White. And we actually saw the opposite, that Black was the one who was taking over in terms of the evaluation, maybe not in large part until later in the game, when it suddenly started to get super, super dangerous for Ding. And we were starting to think maybe today is going to be the day that we'll see a world champion. But the day was delayed. Today we will absolutely see a world champion, but yesterday Ding held up. His defenses held up. It was a 7-hour game, and I think we can't underestimate how difficult it is to play precisely after those 7 hours and also after the preceding 3 weeks of chess that we've seen, especially very bloody chess. But Ding's calculation held up. I mean, whether he was tired or not, he played all the perfect moves in that rook endgame, and he survived a big scare. And perhaps Jan is a bit disappointed, but we just have to say that Ding was up to the task.
And one of the biggest criticisms of this World Championship has been the perceived lack of defensive tenacity. But that script was rewritten yesterday when Ding Liren, he buckled down, played for 7 hours, and he was helped by a pawn push heard around the world. That b6 tactical idea where he gives up a pawn, then gives up a rook for a bishop just to win a rook back, entering a rook and pawn endgame, down a pawn, but holding on. That was impressive stuff from Ding Liren. And Jan Nepomniachtchi, maybe he'll be a little bit disappointed because he had this match victory, it felt, in the bag in game 12. He let it slip, but he had the upper hand yesterday, so he can't feel good that in the last game that they played, he was the one with all the chances. He may not have won the game, but he enters Championship Sunday with some renewed confidence, you would hope.
That's a big upside for Jan. Playing game 14 just yesterday with the black pieces, being the one pushing the game for the most part of it, with Ding Liren found some critical resources there. And now, traditionally, in the 2016 and the 2018 World Championship matches where we did see tiebreaks, they happened after a rest day. There was a rest day and then the playoffs. But this time, after a grueling game 14, the players straight away go into the playoffs. And they'll start with 4 rapid games with 25 minutes on their clock. And every time a player presses the clock, gets an additional 10 seconds. In case there's a tie after the first 4 rapid games, that's a 2-2 score, we will see the match proceed to the Blitz playoff. And that will be a best of 2 with a 5-minute and a 3-second increment. If that one ends in a tie as well, then we go down to the final tiebreaker, which will be with 3 minutes on the clock for each of the players and a 2-second increment. The games will be played out till we have a decisive result. Robert, we're going to start with rapid. We're going to potentially have blitz. Is there, in either of these 2 formats, a big favorite?
Such a big question. I know that's what the people want the answer to. Who is going to win today? And going into the rapid portion, we do not know. I know Ding Liren, he has the slight nod in terms of rapid rating, but he's inactive over the board. And Jan Nepomniachtchi has played some excellent speed chess. He won the Rapid Chess Championship in 2022 on chess.com. He beat some big names along the way. So I feel like it's hard to pick between these 2. They are both well tested online and over the board. They have been at the top of chess for over a decade. I don't know who to pick.
It is going to be an amazing fight, and we do know that the players have played each other a bunch of times in speed chess as well. These are their head-to-head scores, but past scores are the least of the concerns for these 2 players today. It's a totally different universe that they're in. None of the rules apply here. The only takeaway that we have from this graphic in front of us is that it's going to be a close call. As Robert said, it's hard to pick a favorite. But then we didn't need a graphic to tell us that it's going to be a close call. It was clear in the classical games, just the kind of fight that we're going to get today. Now, what's going to matter today is going to be energy. Both are extremely fatigued, not only from game 14, but all the games preceding that as well. It's been a big fight from the very start. It's going to come down to who has those extra seconds in time scrambles. Grit, determination, stamina will come into play. Fabi, is it fair to say that today will be more about the player who makes the last mistake and less about accuracy?
I think accuracy will play a huge part in deciding who makes the last mistake because very often these mistakes that come at the last moment, they're the result of pressure that builds up throughout the game. So if you're on the back foot throughout the game or throughout the day of rapid chess, then that's likely to lead you astray in those critical moments because we know the pressure, it's not just a momentary thing, it builds up in your mind and your body. And so it might be down to like just who plays the best chess, and we might only see it manifest finally in some like huge blunder in when they're both down to time trouble. But we have to recognize that mistakes and blunders don't come, in a vacuum. They're the result of previous factors that build up.
Yeah, it's really well worded by Fabiano there that we often think, how could they blunder this piece? That's what spectators may think, but it's because of continued pressure. Tough moves have to be played, and such as single moves, it's strategies, ideas, and when you're in rapid chess, you can't sit for 30 minutes because guess what? You don't have 30 minutes to start with. So I think when we look at this match as a whole, Jan Nepomniachtchi has been the quicker player. He's also been the first into the playing hall, and that is true today as well. And I feel like for Ding Liren, he knows he can't sit in for those long things. He is going to have to find ideas quickly. He is capable of that. We have seen in some of the best players in the world, they may be slower in classical chess, but they speed up when the time gets lower.
As Jan Nepomniachtchi walked into the playing hall, he did glance at that stunning trophy that we saw earlier on. That is the ultimate dream for these two players. So much pressure, so much tension, but champions play their best chess in exactly these clutch moments. Now, we also had the drawing of lots after the press conference yesterday, and Ding Liren does start with the white pieces, the first rapid game. And it is going to be a lot about what did Team Ding come up with for this game one. A result in game one could potentially set the tone for the rest of the rapid games. Fabi, how crucial and how critical is game one for these players with 4 games ahead?
Yeah, I think that will really set the stage. And if we see a decisive result, it could uh, really lead to some momentum for whoever wins. Although we have a lot of recent data in terms of 4 game matches between top players, in the Champions Tour, this is the format. And very often we see a lot of back and forth. So someone wins a game, and I mean, I can't count the amount of times, and this has happened in my own matches as well as, if I'm watching matches of Magnus or Hikaru, and we almost immediately see a strike back. And it's kind of remarkable, but because when the match stays level, when it's like draw after draw, then players struggle to break through. But once there's a decisive result, very often that leads to the person in the lead. They go into defensive mode, their play starts to suffer a bit. I've seen this countless times. It even happens to Magnus that he wins a game and everyone thinks, okay, he's going to run away with the match. But then suddenly we see, let's say, Wesley or Hikaru strike back in the very next game. And it could easily happen in this match as well, that we see it back and forth because there's this like psychological element where you win a game and you feel like that you're already, at the finish line. Like, I just need to not mess this up. I just need to draw the rest of the games. And that can have a bad effect on your play. So from what I've seen a lot, there is that tendency for there to be not just like a clean, decisive game followed by draws and a clean victory, but a little bit of a struggle there.
It's going to be a big struggle for these two players, and Ding Liren with the white pieces, Jan Nepomniachtchi with black, looking ready to start. And Robert, before we get the game action going, this one's for chat, and this one's for both of you actually. A prediction. You know I love predictions. Will we see this match go into blitz? And I'll start with Robert.
Always put me on the spot. I do not think that we're going to blitz. I don't know who's going to win, but I do think we will see a champion crowned in rapid. Mistakes happen more frequently in quicker time controls. I think one side will take the lead and will not relinquish it at a certain point, and so we will see a champion crowned in rapid.
Robert predicts a match in rapid. What about you, Fabi?
I'm going the opposite direction. I think we've already seen so much back and forth. I don't think it's going to stop now. And I think you might call me superstitious, but I think there's going to be an element of fate here in terms of the dramatic twists and turns of the match, and that will continue. And it just feels like these guys are so evenly matched that it's hard to imagine them not going the distance.
And we do have the first move on the board. Ding Liren goes with the trusted queen's pawn opening that we've seen him employ in the match so far. And this is a new position. First time in the 2023 World Championship.
Well, when Ding is
like
playing with the, yeah, I like it too. When Ding is playing with the white pieces, every opening is a new opening. He has played pretty much everything you can imagine. After we see d4 knight f3, he played one time the London system, bishop f4, one time the Coley system, e3, and now he's going for a third move, c3. Will we? I mean, he doesn't want to put that pawn on c4 anymore, so he's you know choosing between all these small systems that are kind of a little bit interesting, a little bit poisonous. I know the c3 system because Levon was quite enchanted by it, and I don't know if you remember, Robert, when we were at the Olympiad, Levon was telling us a bit about this c3 stuff, and
Yep.
it's an interesting little system. It's like a modern approach trying to pose black some original problems, and we see already Ding took a pawn and is trying to hold on to it by any means. Bishop on e3, a bit unusual, but it does defend the pawn.
Yeah, and I actually really like these approaches when it comes to quicker time controls. And this is rapid. And you may see Ding's clock at 25 minutes and 56 seconds and be wondering, didn't they start with 25 minutes? They have increment. They will gain some time with every move. They will gain 10 seconds. And I like stealing pawns if it doesn't compromise your entire position in quicker time controls, because this pawn on c5, good luck winning it back. At some point, Ding will push his pawn to b4. That's why his pawn's on c3. And if he can establish the defense of that pawn, Black will have a lot to prove. Compensation is often a vague term. What compensation does Jan Nepomniachtchi have? He has 2 pawns in the center to 1 for white. So there's some good news for Jan. I think there's more bad news at the moment. I think this was a smart opening choice, but we're just getting started here. Right? We're only 6 moves in. Too early to predict, but I do enjoy this decision from Ding Liren.
So wait, what happens after knight g4 now? Because yeah, I do want to get that pawn back. And if the bishop goes to d4, there's e5. If the bishop goes somewhere else, we take that pawn. So you have a few choices, I guess. You can. He decides not to, but it looked interesting to attack the bishop there.
Yeah, he castled, but let's look. Knight g4, bishop d4, e5 is 5. To get this bishop out of here, I guess there's h3 kicking this knight away. And it's a very forcing sequence where white takes the knight, you take this pawn, this knight hops back and takes here. So I think Black's position looks quite flimsy. I would not have advised going for this if I were Jan, and he didn't. He castled instead.
But he does, after d4, he does regain the material because the g4 pawn will be hanging. And yeah, you might be right that after knight e4, maybe the h-file being opened is actually to white's benefit. But we didn't see that. We saw castle and Ding decided to hold on to that pawn. I was going to say, like, instead of bishop g2, he could have played b4 as well. Just clinging onto that pawn, and now knight to g4 comes. Wow. So Jan knows this position.
He must, because that knight may reroute to e5 and over to c4, control some of the squares. But Tanya, I was saying I like grabbing pawns. I know Yasser Saron will be proud. What about you? Do you like white's opening choice thus far?
I don't know if this is something I would go for in a game, but Robert, I love what we're seeing. And to just add to the excitement, after Jan Nepomniachtchi made the move knight c6, that's a position I don't have in my database. It's a brand new, fresh position right out of the opening. Now, when you're playing in a rapid game, time is such a big factor. I don't believe that Ding would have played on in this fashion and in this manner in a classical game. But in rapid, this just makes it so exciting and so fun. Ding Liren hanging on to that extra pawn and bishop d4 on the board. The ideas that you were talking about, e5,